This podcast is about introducing our fans to the animals, plants, and other products that we work with at Josh's Frogs. It's an opportunity to paint a picture of our hobby that is refreshing. We want you guys to be successful with the animals that you're keeping, and we want our hobby to grow ethically and sustainably into the future. Welcome to the Josh's Frogs podcast. Today I have a special guest. We're going to be talking a little bit about PA Woods and Forests and their organization and what they do for amphibians and other animals. But before we do that, just want to let you know that the Josh's Frogs podcast is brought to you by joshsfrogs.com. We're your one-stop shop for all your amphibian, reptile, and pet bugs needs. So we only sell captive bred animals. Then we carry everything you need to take care of those animals, from caging and substrates to live plants and bioactive substrates to even the feeder insects that you feed. So we got everything all in one place, and we like to take care of you. So we have customer service agents that are available during the day, and then we have a full library of blogs, articles, videos, that kind of stuff. We want you to be successful with what you keep. So check us out, joshsfrogs.com. And without further ado, Aaron, welcome to the Josh's Frogs podcast. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on, Josh. I'm a huge fanatic of Josh's Frogs, so this is awesome.
Cool. All right, Aaron, tell me a little bit about your growing up and how you got connected with the hobby. Like, how did you start interacting with nature? Where were you at? What were you doing? What are the kinds of things that you were keeping?
Well, I mean, I was very fortunate that my parents were into nature growing up, and for the longest time, my family would allow us to go and find frogs and toads in our backyards, and they let us keep them for a couple months and feed them and stuff, and then we would then let them go around this time of the year and let them bulk up and go back to the wild. At some point, though, my parents felt bad because our yard wasn't suitable for frogs and toads. We were in a suburban neighborhood. There was no ponds around. But I don't know. We always were interested in frogs and toads, and my parents got the idea we should just build a pond and see what happens, because there weren't a lot of frogs and toads in the backyard and in the neighborhood. And I think it was I was 9 years old or so. I remember being out there digging the pond. We dug out a 1,000-gallon pond, and I was really young, 7, 9, something like that. Of course, they let me pretend I was digging, probably, but
that's right. That's right.
So we got to build our own pond in a way, and it was really cool to see the wildlife that came to the yard. And I was very interested in the toads, and I think this is kind of where the origin story of Frog Week takes place too.
Yeah.
Because for the longest time, my parents were a little bit oh, it's a shame that there's no frogs here. They were not seeking them out. They weren't fanatics about it or anything by any stretch. They're just well, our kids really like frogs and toads, and it's a shame that there's not more here. So they wanted to put in a pond. So years down the road, I start working for a landscaping company, and I'm starting to kick around the idea of keeping frogs and toads. I think it's like a greenhouse / landscaping nursery. So I'm working in the field at the plant nursery, and I'm digging holes and stuff, and I see the toads out in the field, just hanging out. They didn't even care we were there. They're eating isopods and little millipedes, and just why are you here in the middle of the day watching me eat? I don't know. And I just was really always fascinated with them. And I think it was around my junior or senior years, about maybe 10, 11 years ago, I started getting in the idea of, well, maybe I should keep frogs and toads. I really like them. I'm really interested in them. So I started doing a lot of research. I got on the forums, and I did become aware of Josh's Frogs at the time. And I started early on, following you guys. So we're talking 2013, 2012.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I've been following Josh's Frogs for a long time, so you know what I mean? Getting on the podcast with you guys, it's just unbelievable. But anyway, so yeah, I started getting into trying to pursue keeping frogs and toads. I didn't really know where to start, and I thought, well, I'd really like to make an impact on the native stuff. So I knew it was going to be harder. I knew it was more controversial and all that stuff, and for a good reason, there's not a market for it, but it didn't really deter me from wanting to still keep them, but I wanted to do it always legal. So I, went through all the legal aspects of that and everything. but I wanted to do more than just that. Like I wanted to have like some kind of call to action, something meaningful. And I think it I think seeing the backyard toads coming to the yard and reproducing and just living amongst us, it was like, well, that's my starting point, was American toads. And I never kind of graduated on from that. I mean, I went to White's Tree Frogs around the same time, loved them.
Hmm.
And you guys gave me some bell frogs a couple years ago. But anyway, I just kind of stayed focused on the native species, and it became like a call to action. How can I help these animals? Is there a few of them in need, even if they're common? What
Hmm.
does that look like? So I started asking questions a long time ago. Um, and I found that if you can't necessarily find the answer, sometimes you have to become the answer.
Yep.
And through a lot of different trial and error and going through the motions of growing as a keeper and as somebody who wants to just understand everything they can and read all the journals about stuff. Anyway, long story short, there was a toad named Ace. I brought her in, rescued her. She's been the face of the media brand that I oversee, and she's been a cover of newspapers, magazines, and stuff like that. But anyway, so she got sick, and I wanted to help her. Had no idea about like parasites and stuff, so took
Hmm.
her to the vet. Last second effort, had to end up going to Pittsburgh. I'm an hour away.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so we get her treated, and we go. It's like a wild time. I'm getting into the hobby. I'm like, you know what? Never again is this gonna happen. I'm like, I'm fed up. I'm tired of this. I'm like, I'm not gonna let something like this happen to me again. So I'm gonna learn all there is to know about these animals. And I wasn't in college at the time, uh, going into biology or wildlife or
Yep.
anything. I was in communications, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try and talk to some of the biology professors because I'm really passionate about this stuff. I hooked
Yep.
up with the right guy, took a minor in it, and then I just got done literally about a week ago with grad school for biology. So now I have a master's in biology. So that passion
That's
is a, yeah,
that's
the
really
passion.
cool. That's really cool about the change in the direction during college. Like I think a lot of times people don't feel like they can make those changes, and a lot of times the changes that we make in those periods like are tied to like what we're passionate about. So I could see
Yeah.
that you're really passionate about that type of stuff, and that's really cool how that came out in your story. That's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, just the fact that I had the chance to see the toads, I saw a need that could be met, and I'm like, well, instead of looking for it, why don't I just become it? And that's what Frog Week originally it evolved from, was just wanting to make a change in the backyard and in the neighborhood. And now we're in 7 counties, and we've been seen in all 67 in Pennsylvania, and then onward from there.
That's cool. That's cool. I want to learn a little bit more about Frog Week, but before we do that, talk a little bit about PA Woods and Forests, what that is, and then this media company that's attached to that. Kind of explain what that organization is, what you guys do, and like how you got started.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the chance to explain. So, PA Woods and Forests is a 501c3 incorporated nonprofit. So, we've gone through all the legal work to be incorporated. So, hopefully, like no lawsuits or anything crazy. But 501c3, we're able to get grants. We're able to apply for funding through different organizations and government agencies. We focus on amphibians, of course, frogs and toads, some salamanders, and we also focus on pollinator insects like bees and butterflies. And we have a list on our website of what our target species are. Our whole goal is conserving overlooked species in your backyard, and that could be hypothetical in the whole state, maybe even the Northeast if you stretch it, or into the Midwest where you guys are at, or it could be your actual backyard. And we want to inspire people. Just because something is looked at as a common species, it doesn't mean that it's always going to be common or it's always going to be there. And that might be an overrated term anyway. You know, what was once abundant 50 years ago could very well be gone now. So
Yep.
that, for the most part, is what we focus on. We build habitat, we search for animals to try to help document them for the state. And we do a lot of nature hikes, and I've also incorporated something that's separate to collaborate with our nonprofit. So I created a media brand, and it's focused on wildlife, hiking, a podcast, drones, and stuff like that. And my goal with that is to try to encourage people who want to watch nature, especially if you're interested in the eastern United States. whether it's hiking some really cool places or you want to learn about the wildlife, and I'm keeping it indoors through special state permits and stuff like that. So you can learn about all of those things on the YouTube channel. And I look at it kind of like a Netflix or a Hulu, where I literally have shows and I have different people on those shows and lend a hand sometimes. But I really want to create different shows and offer a lot of opportunities for people to watch stuff, because I don't know, like I said, wanting to be the change instead of looking for it, I took that to a whole different level with the YouTube channel.
That's cool. And so you guys are reaching a lot of people with different activities in the organization. So you rattled off some of those things that you guys are doing. Can you give us a rundown, like give us some examples of certain activities that you guys do? Maybe a success story or something that was really cool that you guys were able to be a part of.
Well, let me give you a couple things by the numbers. So we do road rescues. I have partnerships with two different wildlife rehabilitation centers, and we have so I should explain real quick. If there's a wounded animal, we'll take it to a wildlife center. I am not a wildlife center. I'm more education. That's what my permits are in. But I got agreements, and it's very hard to get that, because you could take any kind of bird, any kind of mammal. Imagine trying to get somebody to take a bullfrog. But so I got people to take them, and that whole process is interesting. But anyway, so if the animal can be like healed, if it's sick, or if they can fix it up and it could go back to the wild, that's first. If it can't, we look to see if it could become an ambassador animal somewhere. So I'm kind of like the distributor in a way, like helping the animals. But I also move them off of the road, so that way we can avoid road mortality, which is one of the most overlooked aspects of frogs and toads declining. But anyway, so we saved about 126 so far from February 29th to yesterday, about 126.
Wow.
So that's frogs, toads, spotted salamanders, and a few turtle species. We oversee about 150 miles in Pennsylvania, it breaks down to 7 counties. We have done about 45 events, and you asked me about different events. So I take the public out, we call them frog walks. We go on night nature hikes to different nonprofits, and we highlight the work that they're doing to conserve land. And then we also get the chance to introduce people to what frogs and toads they might have in their backyards, but also what lives on the property. And I play frog calls as a icebreaker to get people interested on what they might hear while they go on the walk. So that's one of the things. The other one is called Critter Talks, and that'll be making its way to the YouTube channel very soon as well. But I take the animals from one of our shows that are ambassador and education animals, like the gray tree frogs and even some of the white tree frogs and other critters. But I present them for children. I go to like libraries, Bible camps. I go to nursing homes. We'll go to festivals, and that we've done, like I said, through 7 different counties. We've done other things as well, being at festivals, but right now, those are the 2 things that we do. We also, like I said, build habitats. We're hoping to build a pond, to rebuild a pond in one of the counties we oversee, and the goal is literally bring frogs back to the park. So that's pretty cool that we could be a part of that.
That's really cool. Now back way up, like how did you guys start doing this? So if somebody's listening now and maybe they're in Illinois or maybe they're in Montana and they're like, what Aaron's talking about is really cool. I think there should be something like that in my area. Like, did you guys look and see if there was something available and then started your own thing? How did you guys, what's the origin story? Like, how did it get started? And like, how can people get involved in this type of thing if they feel like there's a need in their area?
Well, I think I can answer it first. I could look outward. I think it's easier actually to talk nationally than it is more at home. But nationally, if you live in Illinois, you live in Minnesota or Wisconsin or like Michigan or anywhere, I would encourage people first to see what's available from the state, because there are some great groups that are involved right now that are doing a lot of great conservation. And there might be like Frog Watch or other places that people could get out there and help and contribute. And I think that's probably the easiest answer. You can always promote your backyard as an environmental, kind of like a home base for frogs and toads, with different things like putting pots out, watering, putting water out, like stuff like that, little things, building a pond, a bigger thing. But
Yep.
I would say first get involved with what you know is there. And if you don't see that or you don't like your options, then I would recommend for somebody to consider all the alternative routes. You know, do you want to be a nonprofit? Is it just a club? Or is it going to be some kind of business? And what kind of business? Are you landscaping environmentally? Are you like going to get into like keeping animals for like a
Yep.
museum display? So there's a lot of things you could do, but I'd first recommend somebody gets involved with what's already established and try to enhance that. Too many cooks in the kitchen sometimes isn't a good thing.
Yep, yep, exactly. All right, talk a little bit about Frog Week, how that started, what is Frog Week, and explain what's going on with Frog Week.
Yeah, Frog Week is something that I created in 2019, and Josh's Frogs has been the sponsor since the very, very beginning. I mean, you guys helped create the first graphics for it. It's pretty wild to think, but yeah, 2019. I had the idea that I wanted to do some backyard conservation, and it was before we even had the tagline for the nonprofit, before we really knew that we were going to go out and create a nonprofit. So the Frog Week project, the conservation project, is actually older than the nonprofit, which is
Wow.
funny. But yeah, by 2 years it has it beat. But over the course of that time, I learned about herping and I learned about how significant that is if you have a state that's really interested in learning the numbers, where the animal's distribution is. And then I kind of pulled it a step further. It's like, okay, we're going, and I should say, herping is going out, filming
Yeah.
frogs and toads, amphibians and reptiles, and documenting them, whether it's iNaturalist or if the state has something of its own, like contributing as a volunteer. And I said,
Hmm.
you know what, this is cool, but I don't know that I'm like your hardcore herper going to every county, every rock I'm flipping, all the 10. I wanted to kind of settle in and make a difference on like a couple groups of animals. And then it was natural just to pick frogs. That's my first passion, like what I really care about, wanting to help. And um, so it originated from that. And then I wanted to do something with filming them because I looked at every option. I looked at Animal Planet, I looked at National Geographic, BBC America, everybody. And there really wasn't a lot of love for the native species, which I get
Yeah.
it. There are some incredible frogs. You guys have some of the most stunning frogs in the world, hands down. I just wanted to create something that I wanted to watch. So, like, what I thought was cool, what I wanted to get my neighbors involved in, originated from that. Like, I wanted to document animals, didn't have an organized idea because I literally just got into the biology realm of things with the minor at that point. So I'm like
Mhm.
wide eyed, what can I do? How can I do it? You know, listening to some of the professors that are my mentors, and they're like, man, you better have a lot of energy, kid, if you're going to do all this stuff. I just have too much energy. I think I knocked my camera over. I don't know if you ever had that for a podcast episode yet, Josh. It's like fans turning on and cameras falling, but yeah, it explains it. You know, having passion, too much passion apparently, shaking things. But no, I mean, I've always really wanted to make a change, and it was really cool because my communication background enabled me to figure out how are we going to make that change. You know, how are we going to go to the media and sell this? Because there were so many doubters and critics. But I said, you know what, I'm going to bet on the project, and I think that all our backyard frogs are cool. And we got in all 67 counties. We made it on the cover of newspapers and like featured in magazines and stuff, and people took it seriously. So while some experts and some very serious enthusiasts don't think they're attractive or interesting or sexy frogs,
Yeah.
you know what? The media thought it was great, and that's how we have to get the message out there. We got to care about our perception and who we're serving. So
That's really cool. One of the things that I really love about Frog Week and the things that you're doing is that it brings people awareness about the nature that's just right around them, and that I think that's really cool. That a lot of times we get stuck behind our phones or in our concrete jungles, and we forget that there's something right outside of our doors that we can engage with, and I think that's really cool. It brings an awareness to it, and then I hopefully that leads to change in behaviors. Like, hey, like the choices I make in my everyday life can impact living things around me and in my world. So I'm really excited about what Frog Week does and how it brings awareness to the animals that are right outside our front door.
I think it complements Josh's Frogs work really well because if you have a respect and appreciation for the animals outside. When you come in and you see your frogs or whatever
Yep.
you bought from Josh's Frogs, you're going to say, man, I see this a little bit differently now because I see the struggles that the frogs face in my backyard. I can't imagine what they're facing in the wild. I'm
Yep.
happy that I'm at a place that's breeding them in captivity and that, we're
Yep.
not pulling them from,
Yep.
wherever. So I think
Wow.
that it kind of complements what you guys do in a
Yeah.
way.
Now, if you were talking to somebody who is like, hey, man, I want to get involved with what you guys are doing or get involved with some stuff that's locally, like, where would you recommend that people start? Like, how can they be engaged and how can they be a part of what you guys are doing and across the country?
That's awesome. Across the country, we're getting internationally now. Well, I'll tell you this from a kid who just came up with the idea in his room, basically. I'll say PA Woods and Forests, the website. You could take a look at our homepage, see all the target animals in the counties we're in. If you feel the need, if you guys would like to donate, we would be more than happy to receive that. But also, if you want to ask us questions to identify animals, you can always email us that. And you could follow along what we're doing on the website. We have many different sections, but I'd also throw out an invite to those who want to engage with me on the media brand. So we have the YouTube channel where you can watch Frog Week. You can watch all the other shows as well. But we also have a group called the Frog and Toad Facebook page. And we have over 10,000 people there. And a few years back, I got offered the opportunity to be like the guy to run it. With grad school, I got a little busy the last year and a half, so I haven't been as consistent. But we are trying to push that as like a library for people to go if they want to find a resource. So Woods and Forest Media, the Frog and Toad Facebook group, and if you want to learn about the nonprofits work or help volunteer, if you're listening to this anywhere in Pennsylvania, we'd be more than happy to have volunteers and board members join. So
Awesome.
that's what I would say.
Awesome. I'll throw those links in the description of the podcast so that people can click on those and subscribe and get connected with you in those ways. That's really cool. All right. Any last things you want to say about PA Woods and Forests or Frog Week or the things that you're doing or any other things that we didn't talk about?
I'll just invite the audience here. If you guys want to see frogs and toads from your own backyards, if you're in the eastern part of the United States or even the Midwest, give Frog Week an opportunity to just entertain you. Like, just sit down, especially the first episode. It's a roadmap for Frog Week 2024. You watch that episode, you plug into that. You can get plugged in even if you don't watch the project months down the road. But I'd really encourage you guys and invite you to really check it out because there's not a whole lot of outlets that are prioritizing these animals and want to get the tight close-up shots with like the new cameras and even out of the box ideas with drones and infrared binoculars and crazy stuff. But that's some of the stuff that I utilize in Frog Week. So I would really invite you guys and encourage you to check that out and see what I'm doing with the ambassador animals as well, the gray tree frogs, the toads. Look at all those exciting and really big enclosures that we have as well.
That's really cool, Aaron. I think what you're doing, like is an opportunity for people to really see what they could do for the animals that are around us. And I'm really excited to share your story. So thanks for coming on and doing that. I want to finish with a lightning round. And I'm going to give you some questions. If you can't think of an answer, you can go ahead and pass, but I'd really like you just to give me the first thing that comes to your mind. All right.
All
All right.
right.
If money and space were no issue, what is your dream pet? It can be anything, doesn't have to be a frog. What's your dream pet? Money and space are not an issue. You got unlimited money, unlimited space. What's the coolest animal that you would keep?
If I had a time machine, I'd probably pick one of my past toads.
Oh, that's
Honestly,
awesome.
that it would be one of them.
That's cool.
Probably,
That's cool.
yeah.
All right. Besides Josh's Frogs or PA Woods and Forest, what's another nonprofit or another brand or another business who's somebody that you think is like doing really cool things in our hobby that you like to give a shout out to? Like who's somebody that not many people know about or don't know how good they are?
Oh, easily. So this guy is a friend of Josh's Frogs. He's a big friend of ours. Mac Pridgeon from Tar Heel Ants. He's going to change the game for people to own ant colonies, like literal queens, like whole colonies. He's going to change the game, but really excited for that guy too.
That's cool. That's cool. We'll provide a link so that people can learn a little bit more about what he's doing. All right. your first pet ever. What was the first thing you caught that your mom let you keep? What was the first thing? Do you remember what the first thing was that you caught?
It was a female American toad. Her name was Little Toad, and I trained her to actually go on my hand. She would get on my
Wow.
hand from the tank. Never done
That's
it
so
before,
cool.
never done it after, but it was awesome.
That's cool. That's cool. All right. Of all the animals and plants that are on our planet, like what is the coolest thing? What's your favorite either really unique animal or really unique plant? What's the coolest thing on our planet?
So I'd say I want to have a tie here. I'd say the coolest thing would probably be the toads and the tree frogs, just general, the hylids and the bufonids. But I'd say plant wise, it's like my sweetheart is the pitcher plant. Like that's
Oh,
my
that's cool.
favorite.
That's cool. That's cool. All right. Next question. What did you want to be when you were a kid? So pre teenage years, what was it that you were like, hey, this is what I want to be when I grow up?
Oh God, I still don't know. But I'll tell you this: I wanted to make an impact. I wanted to.
Cool.
I don't know. I just that's all. I didn't really know, to be honest.
That's really cool. That's really cool. All right, you have a free hour of free time. No one's bothering you, nothing to do, no duties or responsibilities, no due dates or anything. You get a free hour. You can do whatever you want. What are you doing in that hour?
Probably gonna take care of the animals and just bond with them. Try to target train the toads more. I'm gonna walk the dogs with my girlfriend, or I'm gonna fly my drone.
Oh, cool. Cool. All right. Last question. You have a bunch of people listening to you right now. Like, what's one piece of advice or one thing you'd like to remind us to do in the future, or one thing that you've learned? What's your parting, like a good idea or words of encouragement or advice that you give to people?
I'd say bet on yourself and don't be willing to take, or sorry, be willing to take risks. Be willing to get out to the uncomfortable because whenever you push yourself, you find out what you're made of. And sometimes that's what the world needs. We need to be out of our comfort zone if we're going to make an impact on the world.
Aaron, thank you so much for sharing not only your wisdom with us, but your experience as well too. I think it inspires us all to make a difference in our own community, and I'm so thankful for the ways in which you said yes to the call of doing something, and the example that you set for all of us. And I wish you guys the best of success, and I hope what you're doing spreads to other states, and that we're able to make even a bigger impact. So thank you for sharing with us today, Aaron. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I love Josh's Frogs. I really appreciate the time you guys give us, and I'm so excited to keep working with you guys.
Awesome. Sounds good. Just to remind you guys, I'm going to throw a bunch of links in the description of this podcast. Please check them out, find ways to support them, whether that's financially supporting them or trying to mimic some of the stuff that they're doing in your own community. We need a lot of more people doing what Aaron's doing. We've got a big country to cover. So thank you, Aaron. And thank you for listening to the Josh's Frogs podcast. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If you enjoy this content and want to stay up to date, make sure to like, subscribe, and follow us across social media. We always want to bring you the best content, so let us know what you think in the comments. And for all your reptile and amphibian needs, be sure to check us out at joshsfrogs.com. We have an amazing selection. Until next time, stay curious, stay froggy, and keep exploring.